everyone, and welcome to Conversations on Craft, where we dive into the messy and magical world of writing and we demystify the publishing process. And I am thrilled today to be joined by Erika Lee, winner of Ascent Novel Prize, our inaugural winner. Erika was born and raised in Hong Kong, and she moved to the UK 10 years ago for her studies, and she now practices as an international arbitration lawyer in London. Erika, I'm so thrilled to have you here today.
Same. Thank you so much, Haley, for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Can you tell everyone what your winning novel, A Thousand Rivers of Time, is about?
Yeah, for sure. So my novel is a family saga which traces three generations of women from a Hakka Chinese family. So it spans the 1940s to the 2010, and it's set in China, Hong Kong, England, and America. So it's quite, a wide period that I'm trying to cover. And in the novel, my protagonist, the grandmother, Mei Chen, receives a letter some 40 years after it was posted by her long lost sister, who she thought had actually died when they made the crossing from China to Hong Kong after the Chinese Civil War. So as her memories deteriorate, due to dementia, she enlists her daughter and granddaughter to help find out what happened to her sister.
Wonderful. Does it require much research, Erica? I know some of it's based on your
Hmm.
own family. Can you talk us through your research process and how you used your own family history to weave into the novel?
Yeah, for sure. So there has actually been, well, I've done a lot of research to be honest. So I have always had an interest in this period of history, like Cold War history and history in Hong Kong and China because I'm from Hong Kong originally. So I have been reading a lot, that's been written about this period. So actually, this all came about because my dad made contact with some relatives back in China. So we actually don't really like we hadn't known them for a long time, and because he retired and he had the time, so he basically just traced some of the relatives that he had lost touch with, and then he visited the village where my grandmother was born for the first time in his life, and he actually met his aunts and uncles that he had never met before. And after his trip, he showed me all these pictures and he told me about all these family stories I never knew about. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And that got me thinking about this novel.
Wow, fantastic. I love how your main character has dementia and it's almost kind of what's being lost, and it sounds like your story from the inspiration of the novel is what was found. Can you talk us through those themes of loss and memory and kind of how your characters investigate that and kind of dig back through the layers?
Yeah, for sure. So I think my choice of having the protagonist have dementia is basically because um, I do think that when, we get older a bit, we kind of have different versions of what happened in the past. And this is something that I quite like to explore in my writing because I think that's just something that's very interesting. Like the same thing that might have happened to me like 10 years ago, I actually remember it differently at different points in life, and I have different interpretations of it. And I just find that facet quite fascinating. And I really like talking to kind of older people as well. Like I really enjoy talking to my friends' grandparents, my own grandmother, and I always find their stories very interesting, the ways they remember things. So this is something that I want to explore, and I think that also ties in with how they perceive themselves. I think that's also something that changes as you go through different things in life.
Wonderful. Are you still there, Erica?
Yeah, I
There
am.
you are. Wonderful. You froze a little bit for me, but you're
Oh,
still there.
sorry
Super.
about that.
Sorry. um is it A Thousand Rivers of Time your first novel, or have you worked on other pieces before?
So I actually wrote something when I was a teenager. It was for like, you know how in November lots of people gather to do NaNoWriMo. So I actually did that when I was 15 just for fun because I always loved writing and reading. And it was quite a terribly written fantasy novel about time travel. So I still have it, but I don't think anyone wants to read it. Like I don't want to read it. Um, but I think it was like a good attempt at trying to write something. Yeah, so I kind of worked on something that's a bit more like a romance, like a literary romance, some years ago. But when I was writing it, I was really gripped by this idea, like by A Thousand Rivers Time, and I just decided I can't write two novels at the same time, and I think this has to take priority because it's just what interested me more at the time. So yeah, I've still got that idea, which I might revisit in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Was it sad to let that other novel go, or was it an easy decision because you were so invested in the idea of A Thousand Rivers of
Mm.
Time?
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit sad because I had written quite a few chapters already, and I liked it, but it's just that I didn't feel as passionate about it. I think the thing with writing is that I think you have to really, be very invested in your project because it takes so much time. If you don't like it, it's just not possible to write it, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. What I love
Yeah.
hearing about is almost how your previous novels that aren't yet fully in existence, but without those, perhaps A Thousand Rivers of Time wouldn't have emerged in the way that it did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like no writing is actually wasted because they were really good exercises in just describing things and trying to, come up with like a good plot that makes sense and sketching characters out. I think all those were very useful actually.
Can I ask, the first draft of A Thousand Rivers of Time, how long did it
hmm
take you, Erica?
Um, to be honest, like it's been through so many revisions, I don't really know. I say I say more than a year because the problem that I initially had was that I kept revisiting the first few chapters and I kept rewriting the opening. Um, and at some point, I stopped myself from doing that because it was really hindering my progress. So I just forced myself to keep writing. And I think maybe it happens to lots of people when they start out with writing, but I always have this voice in my head saying, oh, actually, that isn't quite good. Like, and I just have to let go of that like voice in my head as I try to finish it. So I say it took me more than a year.
Yeah. One of my favourite
Yeah.
quotes is done is better than perfect. Because I think if you're a
Yeah.
perfectionist, it's so hard to move forward sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the key, like to actually finish the first draft and then, keep rewriting it. And I am still rewriting a lot of it because I want to make it even better.
Yeah, wonderful. How has your novel changed from that first draft to the novel that won Ascent Novel Prize? Did anything change significantly?
Yes, I think a lot of the history stuff changed, and that basically because I did a lot of research as well in the period from when I started, and it's really hard for me to do that at the start because I had to do so much reading, and after reading lots of things, I decided actually would make more sense if I moved the time period a bit, and that obviously warranted a lot of rewriting and restructuring which took a long time. So yeah, it's changed quite a bit in terms of that, but in terms of the substance, yeah, I mean, it's changed a bit, but I think the core idea was always there.
Wonderful. Um, can you talk us through your writing schedule, Erica? What do you have a
Mhm.
favourite time to write?
Yes, so I'm very much a morning person. So I like to do that when I wake up. Like it's the first thing I do after I make my coffee. I sit down at my desk and I start writing. So because I have a day job as well, so I have to do it before I have to go to work. So generally I start writing at 6 or 6:30 in the morning. And I always write for at least an hour and a bit more if I can afford to. And sometimes on the tube, I also actually write. So I write on Microsoft Word. And basically my documents are all on OneDrive, so I can do that on my phone. As long as there's, yeah, so because my commute to work is like, around an hour, so I can actually write quite a bit, even though it's a bit difficult on my phone. And sometimes maybe during lunch break, I also get a bit of writing done, because my job is quite, I've quite, it's quite consuming, so I have to find whatever free time I can to do the writing.
That sounds like quite a schedule. Do you have rest time at the weekend?
I do actually rest over the weekend, actually. I tend to only write in the mornings, sometimes not at all on the weekends because I try to spend more time with, people in my life and not just in front
Yeah,
of the computer. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Can I ask, Erica, what part of the writing process do you enjoy the most?
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I would say I actually really enjoy the research, and how
I
that
thought you were going to
translates.
say that. I thought, yeah.
Yeah, and how that translates into what I'm writing. Because I sometimes I think if I weren't, a writer or a lawyer, I would be a historian because I actually really love history. I've always loved history, and I love reading stories that are set in different historical periods. So yeah, I really love discovering new things, especially about Hong Kong, because I was born and raised here, but there's so much that I don't know about its history, and I find it really fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. I've got to say, your prose is so beautiful. When you first began writing, did you find it difficult to find your writerly voice? Did it emerge over time, or was it quite innate? Did you just begin writing quite poetically?
No, so that is interesting because I actually started out when I was really young writing poetry.
Oh,
So I actually
wow.
really yeah, so I remember when I was bored in class, I would just randomly try to write some poems for fun. And at first it was just like really silly poems that rhymed. But that kind of progressed throughout the years. So I always thought of myself first as a poet, but I always liked fiction, of course. And it took me a while to find my own voice, and I think I'm still finding it because I really enjoy reading, and I try not to, absorb too much of people's voices because it can be a bit like I don't want to come off as copying someone's voice, but at the same time, there's a lot that we can learn from really good writers. And
Yeah.
I say most of my learning is from reading really well-written books. Yeah, so I'm continuously still doing that, trying to improve my voice.
Do you have favourite writers that you return back to, or books that you've just thought, wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible?
Yeah, I do. So I really, so one, well, I have so many favorite authors actually, but in terms of writing, like really good writing, I would say Kazuo Ishiguro is one of my favorites. I always thought Hemingway and Steinbeck write really well. But in terms of some, more in terms of substance, like I really love Pachinko by Min-Jin Lee, and it's actually one of the books that I refer to when I am writing my novel. It's very different in style because hers is written almost in like a Dickens style, like it's third person and it's like but it's also really, really wide in scope and it covers different generations. I really love that. I also really like Madeline Thane. So her work is also a lot about Asia and memories as well, and her prose is also really beautiful.
I'm just adding lots of books to my to be read pile, Erica. Um, can I ask, when you found out that you had won a Ascent Novel Prize, where were you and how did you feel? Can you talk us through that moment?
Yeah, so because I've been in Hong Kong, so for the past few weeks, because of the time difference, I actually found out when I woke up, when I was checking my emails, so I was actually kind of half asleep when I saw your email. And I was like, oh, what? And then I was like, I might still be asleep. And then I got my coffee and then I read your email again. And I was like, oh, really? And then I was really shocked. So yeah, it was like really early in the morning when I saw that.
Yeah. Wonderful. And what made you enter a Ascent Novel Prize?
Um, So I thought it's just great that, entries get feedback because that was something that I think is quite special about the prize because a lot of times when we enter prizes, we don't really know, what's good or what can be improved about our writing. And I think that's just really important. And I also really like entering prizes. Like I've done that for some other prizes as well, and I find that it's really good like motivation for me to keep writing. Um, yeah, and I don't know, and the whole idea like having feedback and also all the judges, the readers, like I really liked all of them, so that's why I entered the prize.
Wonderful. Yeah. I've seen you were previously listed for Penguin's Murky Books New Writers Prize, and you were
Yeah,
accepted onto the 6 month writing a novel course at Faber Academy.
yeah.
Can I ask what impact these accolades have had on your writing and also the courses that you've done?
Yeah, sure. So when I first entered the Murky Books Prize, it was just kind of for fun. I hadn't, it was free to enter, and I thought, okay, why not? So I sent it in, and I was genuinely shocked to be shortlisted. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I think that gave me the validation that my writing wasn't entirely like, rubbish, because that was what I always thought. I think we're always our worst critics. So, yeah, so I think that gave me the courage to apply to the Faber Academy course. And I was really delighted to be accepted because Faber Academy is great. And I really enjoyed the course. It was a 6 month online course. And my tutor was amazing. Ashley Hickson Lovins. He's an amazing writer and really great mentor as well. And I met, lots of amazing writers in my cohort, and we still keep in touch. So I think that had a great impact on my writing because that just pushed me along even when I was feeling a bit um, discouraged with the writing because sometimes it can be so difficult and isolating.
Yeah. Yeah. You described that some of the courses helped you to kind of take your craft seriously. Was it
Mhm.
was that a difficult process for you?
Yeah, I think so because because I work as a lawyer, so the writing I do in my day job is so different from what I'm doing for my novel. And I think I didn't, and I might say I still don't really have the confidence to say that I can, you know, I'm like a very artsy writer, like, someone who can really write like something that's literary because I felt I didn't have the training to do that. And although I read widely, I never did like literature at university. I did literature in high school, but that was basically it. And afterwards, I just read on my own. So I think that made me feel a bit less confident.
Yeah, wonderful. Can I ask, were you writing A Thousand Rivers of Time alongside the Faber Academy course, or did you do the course first?
Yeah, I was writing it alongside the course. So when I started the course, I was actually working on that literary romance that I mentioned. And it was, I think, around the second month or so that I realized actually that wasn't what I wanted to work on. So I changed the project completely. Um, and and everyone else really loved it. So I thought, oh, actually, I think, that's this is what I should be working on right now. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you've really sought out those networking opportunities, but also the kind of self-education around your
Mm.
craft as a writer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one really good thing about the Faber course is that it involves a lot of workshopping. And I didn't really have a lot of experience with that. So it was really great to receive feedback, but I think it was also really important to be able to read others' work and like try to understand why they've done certain things and let them know if there's anything that they could work on. I think trying to assess someone's writing critically is really important as well for me as a writer because I can then kind of translate that back into my own writing.
Your own work. Fantastic. Do you still use beta readers now, Erica? Do you still have people that you would send your work to now the
Um,
course is over?
My best friend, unfortunately,
Or
Jacqueline,
fortunately, or fortunately for them.
unfortunately, she's had to read quite a lot of my work, and my partner as well. They've been very supportive. So yeah, fortunately or unfortunately, they have to read my work.
And what kind of feedback has had the most impact on your work? Do they kind of give you structural feedback or line by
Mhm.
line? How do you receive feedback from others?
Yeah, so they've been very thorough actually with their feedback. They do give me some line by line suggestions sometimes, and sometimes they also they're really honest about it. Like my best friend said, okay, I wouldn't continue reading if you started like this.
That's
Um,
harsh, Erika, isn't it? But
it it
what writers need?
is.
Yeah.
It is harsh, but it's also so helpful because I'd rather be told that right now and I can make changes. And I think I'm quite receptive generally to constructive feedback, and I've also got really good writer friends from Faber, and also HarperCollins Author Academy actually, which I was part of last year. So we also have a writing group, and they're also really amazing and giving me feedback. We would share extracts of our work, and like some of them are so thorough and they comment line by line on word choice and so on. And I find others' feedback really invaluable, but I should also say that I do take some of the feedback with a grain of salt because I think it's really important as well not to accept everyone's suggestions.
Yeah.
And it's something that we should be careful of, I think, as writers.
Can I ask about the HarperCollins Author Academy? How did you get involved with that and what does that look like?
So it's a scheme run by HarperCollins for underrepresented writers in the UK. And I applied, I think, a year ago, and I was fortunately accepted, and it took place over a few months. We had an amazing editor who gave us a lot of sessions on what to look out for when you're writing a novel. And I learned so much from her, and she also taught us a lot about the industry. So it was just a very simple application process, and we have like a WhatsApp group, and I still
Mhm.
catch up a lot with other writers.
Yeah. I'll check that out and put the link in the bio if it's still I presume it's
Yeah,
still ongoing, so I'll put the link in the bio for all the
yeah,
writers listening. Yeah.
yeah, that would be great.
What would be your top tips for writers who are looking to improve their craft?
Yeah, I think it's two very simple things. It's just to read and write more. I don't really know of other I think, well, reading and writing, obviously, they're like the basics. But there are other things that writers can do, like for example, if possible, maybe join some courses as well. Not necessarily to learn exactly how to write, because I think a lot of people already know kind of how to write, but maybe understanding more about structuring a plot and characterization. I think those are very important things. But most importantly, like trying to find a group of like-minded writers. I think that's very important because writing can be so lonely at times. And I've had so many instances where I thought, okay, I should just give up on this because, felt really burnt out from writing. Um, and listening to podcasts and the podcast that you're running right now, and trying to understand more about the publishing industry as well. So I think there are lots of podcasts nowadays available for free online on YouTube as well. I'm just trying to understand more about writing and the industry.
Wonderful advice. It's interesting because for many people the barriers to publishing seem higher than ever, but yet as you
Mm,
say, there's so many free resources that writers can access now that weren't available say 10, 20 years ago. So it's a bit of a
yeah.
mixed bag, isn't it? So it feels harder to get through the gates, but however, there is so much that we can access for free.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Can I dive into your characterization?
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite character of the ones you've written, of everyone in your novel? Is there someone who is particularly special to you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I would say I love all my characters, but I might like Anita the most. So she is like kind of the middle generation. And the reason why I like her the most is because it's kind of partly inspired by someone in my family, and she's like a very interesting person. Like I love her a lot, and she's funny. She's a bit like skeptical of most things, and I really quite like her attitude on life.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Your novel's multi-generational, and
Yeah.
can I ask, did you have to do much plotting, or did you do a first draft very organically? Can I talk about your process with, because
Yeah.
you're navigating quite a lot of moving parts, so you've got the historical
Yeah.
time periods, also the
Hmm.
different locations.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did you bring it all together?
Yeah, so I've tried to be organized, and I actually do have an Excel spreadsheet. And I map out like different parts of the book, and then I break it down to chapters, but they have shifted a lot. Like, they actually change as I write because I feel like characters do change as well as I write. Like they never come out as I've planned. So my kind of plan is like a very organic thing. Like it changes all the time. It kind of grows on its own. But I do have to have a bit of, structure because of all the history stuff, and obviously because it's multi-generational. So I do have to put some structure in place.
Yeah, great answer. I hate those moments where I think I'd like the plot to do this, but actually my character wants to do this, and they're always you think
Yeah.
you've got to follow your characters, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, it has been incredible speaking to you today. Can I just explore your future for A Thousand Rivers of Time? Do you have any plans for what you'd like to do
Mhm.
next?
Yeah, so I'd say I'm currently kind of in the rewriting stage. And I think as writers, we always need to rewrite our work. So I'm doing that right now, taking quite a systematic approach towards that. And hopefully once, it's to a standard that makes me happy, then I will hopefully, get it published someday. Like that's my dream. So yeah, I'll see how it goes.
Wonderful. Could I unpick your systematic approach? My ears pricked up when you mentioned that. Is that linked to your spreadsheet, or how do you
Mm.
organise your edits?
Yeah, so what I've done is basically I read the draft from start to finish and I started marking it up. And then I also look at the spreadsheet a bit and I'm just thinking, okay, does this actually serve a purpose? Because everything has to serve a purpose if it has to exist in a book. Like all scenes have to do something. They can't just exist for nothing. And then I just evaluate if it serves my purpose in, pushing the plot forward. And if it deepens characterization, if it doesn't, then I have to get rid of it. And then I just, sit and think a lot about, what the purpose of that thing was, whether it's a character or an event. Um, yeah, so I'm just kind of taking stock of all that before I actually amend the draft because I think that's quite an important step.
Yeah. It sounds like you've done also quite a lot of research about the publishing world. Um,
Mm.
was there anything about the publishing world that surprised you, or you're looking forward to, or anxious about?
Well, yeah, so one thing that actually surprised me, which shouldn't have surprised me, was how if a book is too long, it can actually be a bit difficult to get it published because of the cost. And yeah, I never thought about this. And when I was told this, I thought, okay, that makes sense. But also it sounds so like logistical. Like, and there are all these
Yeah.
logistical, yeah, things that I never thought about because when I write, I don't really think about the selling part. It's more like, okay, this is the story. Like, I really enjoy writing it. This is almost like, doing a painting. But then when it comes to publishing, it suddenly feels really like real and it's like you're actually selling a product. And that's something that kind of surprised me.
Yeah, yeah. Ascent Novel Prize, moving forward for this year, we're giving feedback just to our top 100. And on our form, it says word count. And then the feedback's really ruthless because essentially it's so hard to give and to see readers give it, because it is that balance of having something you can sell and
Yeah.
having a piece of work that you just love and should be the right length for that story. So you get some
Mhm.
fantasy writers like, here's my book, it's 300,000 words. And I think if you were Brandon Sanderson, that's great and you could publish that. But as a debut author,
Mm.
it's just a red flag, isn't it? And then that's potentially a missed
Yeah.
opportunity because it's just outside of those parameters where someone can sell your book at, because the cost of paper is just so expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I also spoke to someone else in the industry, and they're saying how nowadays people's attention time span is like a lot shorter. So no one's gonna pick up a really thick book and read it unless you're like a very, famous author, like you said. Like from a debut author, they're not gonna pick up a 500-page novel and read it.
Yeah. Oh, it makes me a
Yeah.
bit sad also, Erica.
It does. It does make me sad because I still remember the days when we didn't have our phones, and I remember as a teenager, I would just get all these books from the library. I wouldn't mind how thick they were. It was just something that I would do, like instead of scrolling on my phone. And yeah, I think that's something that makes me a bit sad, actually.
Yeah, yeah, the deep immersion that we may no longer have. Um, it was incredible to read your novel, A Thousand Rivers of Time, and huge congratulations on your win, Erica. Do you have any final words of advice, perhaps for people thinking, oh, should I enter competitions
Mm.
or should I keep going with my work? Do you have any wisdom that we can use in our lives?
Yeah. Well, I think if you're someone who's thinking of entering the prize, you should definitely do that. And just don't give up. I think a lot of things in life is just about consistency, just trying again and again. Even if it doesn't work, at least you've tried. And that's what I keep telling myself. Like it may not work out. Like I may not, be really successful writer, but at least I've tried, so I won't have any regrets. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, no regrets. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Erica, I cannot wait for the day when I'm holding your book in a bookshop
Oh,
and I'm
thank
saying,
you.
this was the winner of Ascent Novel Prize. I'm very excited for your future and thank you so much for your time and please keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Haley. It's been a pleasure.